Hey guys, for today's video I'm going to show you in real time how I painted the sunglasses on this cute alpaca. I do a lot of nursery art and this painting was designed for kids' rooms for my Etsy shop. Let's get started. So in order to do this alpaca with sunglasses, I actually used Photoshop first, and I took my image from Pixabay with the alpaca and I knocked out the background and made it white all around it just to simplify the image for myself. So I really love the image, but I thought it would just be super fun to add sunglasses. So I'll just show you guys here. I have this image. I had a dog wearing sunglasses actually. So there you can see the image with the sunglasses. And so I manipulated it a little bit and resized it so that it would fit over the alpaca's face. And then I added a layer mask over the top, and you can actually adjust the transparency when you're within a layer mask here. And so what I did was I took the brush tool at maybe 10% opacity, and within the layer mask, I adjusted how I wanted the eyes to be showing through or not. So that's what I did, and I just think it adds a really fun, whimsical effect. So that's what I'm using to paint from for this project. Photoshop is one of my best friends. I use it just about every day. You can see I've already painted on the alpaca's head, and I actually made the inside of the glasses a little more transparent so that we could see some of the eyes on the alpaca. And I think they're just so cute. The image is amazing by itself, but the sunglasses are, of course, just for a fun effect. All right, when you're painting something reflective like this, but that's also showing something through, it's just important to keep track of your values first and foremost. So over on this side, there's a bright highlight on this side of the glasses that we're going to need to be careful around. I see ultramarine in this shape right here, and then some more of the brown coming through, but all of this is going to be a much darker value than this. So always be comparing your values. It will look correct if you get the values right, even if your colors are ever so slightly off. So keep that in mind. We're going to start by working wet and wet. In this section where I see almost a hard line in the reflection of the glasses, this is perhaps a building line right here and maybe a pole coming up and blue sky, and this is going to be the bluest section of those glasses. Now to make sure I get a soft edge around that white highlight, I'm going to go ahead and paint it in wet right away. Anytime you're trying to create super soft edges in watercolor, you use the wet and wet technique. All right, so with that all fully wet, I'm not concerned about the hard edge here. I'm going to take some ultramarine, mix it up on my palette first to make sure I have the right combination. A little darker. And I'm going to drop that in right up to the edge of the glasses. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow ochre here where I see maybe some fur. Without messing with it too much, you want it to just kind of blend naturally. And then a little hint of burnt sienna right there. Rinse my brush and then switch back to the ultramarine. And maybe a little bit of turquoise blue as we come close to the highlight. Remember, while the paint is still wet, you can push and pull it. As it starts to dry, that's when you need to leave it alone. Okay, let's go in with the indigo. It gets quite a bit darker here. Right here is where we start to see the eyelashes underneath almost. And then there's that little Ray-Ban logo. I'm not going to make it super specific. It's just going to look like there's sort of a nameless logo right there in that corner, which is just fine. Taking some more intense ultramarine, painting it right up to that edge. I want the color to be nice and vibrant. Vibrant colors can also signify a focal point, not just values. Maybe go a little darker along the shadow edge of the glasses. So there we've blocked in the top portion. Okay, and then I'm going to wet the area underneath. All the way up to the edge of those glasses, avoiding the rim because that's going to be much lighter. We don't want any paint accidentally flowing into there. Okay, and then I'm going to grab some yellow ochre, kind of dulled down with a little bit of black that's on my palette. I'm going to go even darker with some burnt umber. These shapes don't have to be perfect. This is just a reflection. And if you make the reflections too specific, then you run the risk of that being what the painting is about. And I don't want that here. I want this painting to just portray an attitude, a mood. I don't want it to necessarily say something about where this guy is located and what he's seeing. That's not really important. Painting these little eyelashes with indigo and along the edge of that line there. And then I'm going to pull some of that indigo up into this first shape that we painted. Since the eye is directly underneath the glass here, we want that shape to connect. There's a dark shape under the eye right here. And then this was dry when we started painting this section. It's still dry, so I'm going to paint the distinct shape of the eye right now. And I want that to kind of blend into that top portion, wet and wet. Just grabbed a little bit of burnt sienna. Checking my values as that began to dry. This is starting to look too light again. So I'm just darkening that up. Just reiterating the colors I used initially. There's a bright highlight along the left side of this eyeball, painting right up to that. Probably should use a smaller brush. Oh well. And I'm just filling in the eye with indigo. It's my darkest color here. And those little eyelashes. And then for the fur, I'm using burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow ochre. I'm going to paint it right up to that eye, very carefully avoiding that little highlight. Trying to work quickly to block this in wet and wet so we get nice soft edges. This is burnt umber now on my brush. More indigo. You can see I'm painting pretty quick, not worried too much about perfection here. Switch to yellow ochre, and then I'm going to grab the ultramarine just so we still feel like this is part of the glasses, part of the lens, and just blend that out. I'm going to darken here along the side of the eye where I see that shadow shape. It's also defining the shape of the eye socket. And suddenly our llama's eye is starting to look a little more specific and real. The highlight here under the eye is too bright and too wide, so I'm going to start to tighten that up. And fill in those eyelashes. And in the reflection of the sunglasses, there's a pole right here, which actually I think kind of looks interesting, so I'm going to include that. And like a rooftop along there. And then I'm going to darken the shadow along the sunglasses. Kind of pull out some fur texture along this edge. Take some more ultramarine and make sure that it looks blue enough on the inside of these glasses. And then I'm going to go ahead and darken this highlight. I wanted to wait until it was all dry enough before doing that so it wouldn't all run together. Yeah, that looks cool. So there we go. Our highlight is nice and soft. Everything, if you step back and look at it from further away, it really looks like a shiny blue lens on a sunglass. But closer up, and if you look more closely, you can see the eyeball through the lens, which is exactly what we wanted. I'm going to take a little more yellow into this shape right here. And then we're going to get more specific with the logo detail on this side. But not so specific that you can read it. I just want it to look like lettering. So I'm just kind of filling in some of that white to hint at the lettering of our logo. And then all along the edge of the glasses, I'm not going to define every edge, but there's a couple that I want to outline, such as this one here. Make sure this isn't too dark. I'm going to switch to a more golden tone. And to the best of your ability, try to make it look rounded. It is sort of a cylindrical shape all around that rim of the glasses. And to make it look rounded, you want to have shadow sides all around it and then highlight in the center of the shape. So even though this is tiny, it can be done. And so we'll try to make this a little more realistic looking, not so flat, by just adding those mid-tone shadows along the side of the rim of the glasses. I'm going to go a little darker here in the center of this one. And with this center point of the glasses, the shadow's in the middle of it rather than along the edges, along the side. Just adding a couple little hints of fur detail within that. And there we go, there's the lens of our llama. Let's do the other side. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment below, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss any new videos. Also, check out these other videos on watercolor painting, and I'll see you there.